something with somebody, you should aspire to be like them. But I'll be quite honest with you, I do not want my hair looking like Chris.
I don't want my hair looking like this either.
Hey y'all, Kyle Pacetti here, coming to you from my home here in Vero Beach, Florida. I know a lot of you have seen me on stage and been around me in business, but you know, a lot of times people don't really know the backstory. They don't really know who Kyle is, where I came from. You know, a lot of times people just assume that you know, I was born into success and I've always been successful, and you know, just to kind of let you know, I was born in St. Augustine, Florida, and born into a very loving family. Definitely not born into wealth. I wouldn't say I was born into poverty at all either. We had everything we needed. We just didn't have anything extra. And so, you know, as time went on through school, man, I was a rebel child. I found myself always in trouble, getting suspended from school and nearly getting expelled one time for a fighting incident that just insanity. Finally, eventually, unfortunately or fortunately, I guess I ended up leaving school in the 11th grade, didn't finish, didn't get a high school education, didn't get a GED. You know, sometimes in life we have to make decisions based on the cards that was dealt, and it was a decision that I had to make. I've had all kinds of jobs through my life. I went to work when I was 9 years old and started working in a fish camp, cleaning boats after people brought them back from renting them for the day, and was actually there till I was 14 years old. Worked from the time I was 9 to the time I was 14, and had a passion for building things. I've got into the construction business as a kid, and my dad always was a carpenter, and did a lot of decks and additions and stuff, so I kind of had a little bit of a knowledge base for it and jumped in and did some of that. I've done everything from working in a grocery store to a photographic studio, laid tile, laid carpet, laid wood flooring, laid granite, marble. So I've really done a lot over time. A lot of times people just assume that success came easy, but I will tell you that success never comes easy to anyone, and it sure didn't come easy to me, either. I worked my guts out. I tell people in the construction business it's probably the hardest I've ever worked in my life, because you're out in the heat and it's extremely hot, and you're very, very physically active the whole time, and I worked my guts out to get to the point that I'm at now. So here I was, 14 years old. Dad had got involved in network marketing, and even though he didn't have much success, he had a little success, but he didn't have a whole lot of success. He used to watch these tapes. He used to watch these tapes of this guy. And I never forget sitting there watching him on this massive TV. We had one of them big tube-type TVs, and I remember that you would be watching something and there would be lines appearing, and you'd have to go slap the side of the TV to make the lines go away. And the sad part about that is all of my friends didn't have that type of TV. They had a much smaller thickness of TV with a much bigger screen. But I remember this guy that he used to watch, and the guy would say that success wasn't determined by where you live, what family you were born into, how much education you have, how much money you start with. He was saying that none of that stuff mattered. And my entire life I've been told that the only way you're going to be successful, massively successful, if you was born into the right family, you had a big college education, you were born in the right part of town, and he was saying all of the opposite stuff, which was exciting to me because I knew at that age I was not going to college. I didn't plan on quitting school, but I knew I was not going to college. I hated school. And so here's a guy telling me it doesn't matter where I come from, it doesn't matter how much education I got, what he was saying is that what mattered is what you want, what you're willing to fight for. He said if you don't want to be average and ordinary and you wanted to do something special with your life, that you could achieve it if you wanted to. And I just remember thinking, man, I like this guy.